Okay, this is a call to order. The regular meeting of the Governing Board of Education is called to order by Dr. Joseph Komorowski at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, November 14, 2023 at the District Office Conference Center. Approval of the agenda. Are there any requests for changes to the agenda? I'll take a motion in a second to approve the agenda. We have discussion or a comment from Mr. Schwartz.
Yes, I want to pull item 3 from the closed session, item 1 from the consent, item 5 from the consent, item 9 from the consent, items 1 and 2 from action. Sorry.
Steve, that's quite a few pullings there.
Okay, I'll go back to the beginning. Yes, they're pulled for discussion.
Oh, okay. Under the consent calendar?
First, from the closed session, item 3, number 1 and 5, and 9 from the consent.
1, 5, and 9.
Correct.
And what else? Those are for discussion or
For discussion.
Okay, discussion.
Number 1 and 2, and 3 from the action for discussion.
Okay, so Lene, we have 1, 5, and 9 to be pulled for discussion for Mr. Schwartz under consent. Anybody else want to pull a consent item? We'll start there.
I'm going to take that number 9 and ask to table it. For the rationale and comments, those were not mine. So this was submitted in my name, but the verbiage, the description, none of it matches what I would have written for this. And some additional questions have come up. So what I'd like to do is table this. I know Dr. Velez and I had a meeting yesterday that ended up being preempted because of other things we needed to do with the interviews. So we didn't have a chance to talk, and there's a question or two to run by legal as well. So number 9, I'd like to wait on and bring back in December. I think that's the wisest way to go with this one.
Okay, we'll start with anybody else for pulling for discussion? Okay, do I have a motion and a second? Do you move, Mrs. Wiersma, so that way we can get a second on your number 9?
Yes, I'd like to move.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Schwartz. Lene, if you please call roll. And this is to remove number 9 on the consent calendar.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Barclay?
Yes.
Schwartz?
Yes.
Wiersma?
Yes.
Komorowski?
Yes, motion adopted 5-0. 9's removed from the
Can't be
consent
5-0.
calendar.
Joe, because she can't vote, it refers to her, she has to abstain.
Oh, that's
She's
right.
named in the motion, so she can't vote.
Wait.
is just to pull.
No, what I'm saying, okay.
Yeah, it's
I
just a
won't.
pull.
It's okay, it's fine.
Oh, that was good. You made me think.
It's
All right.
fine.
Motion adopted 5-0. Okay, so now we have those consent items pulled for discussion. Closed session 3, item 3 is related to the superintendent. Okay, so Steve, do you move to pull item 3 from the, yeah, do you move to pull item 3 from the closed?
I do.
All right, do we have a second? Seconded by Mrs.
Second.
Barclay. And this is, to be clear, this motion is to pull item 3 from closed session. Lene, would you mind calling roll?
Well, we can have discussion now. The motion's been on the table.
Sure, but we can't talk about a public employee publicly.
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if Steve has discussion. I was just saying if he did.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I just didn't know if you wanted to discuss anything in relation to that or just take the vote. Okay.
Okay, Lene, would you mind calling roll?
Gonzalez?
No.
Allison?
Yes.
Schwartz?
Yes.
Wiersma?
No.
Komorowski?
No, motion not adopted. 3-2. So we will have 3 in closed session. Okay, so Steve, 1 and 1. Okay, so action items 1, 2, and 3. Steve, do you move to have those removed from open session? To be clear, that is related to 5G policy, 5G or telecommunication policy, telecommunication resolution, and the superintendent.
Correct.
Okay. Do we have are you moving?
Yes.
Okay, moved by Mr. Schwartz to remove those 3 items and open. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Barclay. Ms. Lene, would you mind calling roll?
Gonzalez?
No.
Barclay?
Yes.
Schwartz?
Yes.
Wiersma?
No.
Komorowski?
No, motion not adopted 3-2. Those items remain. Do we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as is?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Gonzalez,
Second.
Second by Mrs. Wiersma.
Discussion?
Okay. Good discussion.
So I did move to pull item 3, and I will state my thoughts right now. As far as I'm concerned, the whole process of selecting a new superintendent was a sham. For the
Steve,
top-
we can't hear you very well on the
Oh,
microphone.
I'm sorry.
Is your mic on? Okay.
For the top-performing district in the county to only receive 4 applicants is evidence that the board has already turned this district into a clown show, to quote one of our board members. The board and community and staff should have seen the survey results, been able to vet all candidates, done multiple interviews, seen references, and conducted site visits to the top candidates' districts. This particular candidate clearly lacks the necessary knowledge of curriculum and instruction that has set Temecula apart for 30-plus years. He hasn't worked for a school district in nearly 10 years.
Excuse me, you're not allowed to discuss an employee, and that motion was already voted yesterday?
I am-
No, point of order, Steve. I've already run this by legal. You are not allowed to discuss that employee.
I am discussing the
You have
process,
just
not the
discussed.
employee.
You have just discussed the employee's
Okay, well,
background.
I'll stop discussing him,
Right.
and I will only discuss the process.
Fair? Go.
The process did not involve the entire board, community, or staff. It lacked transparency and reeks of collusion. It is taking our exceptional district backwards. Our former superintendent, interim superintendent, and cabinet run rings. We deserve a full refund from HYA and should start over with a new firm. There are numerous contract violations, which I will go into later. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Schwartz, any other comments? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Lene, would you mind calling roll? This is to approve the agenda as is.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Schwartz?
No.
Barclay?
No.
Wiersma?
Yes.
Komrosky?
Yes, motion adopted 3-2, agenda approved. So, let me see here. Announcement of the closed session items in accordance with Government Code Section 54957.7. The board will meet in closed session for consideration of items listed in Section E. We do have 4 public comments, and let me read off public comments announcement here. The governing board welcomes public comments. This is time for closed session public comments. Any person wishing to provide a public comment to the board is required to attend the meeting. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes to a maximum of total 30 minutes per item for comments on the closed session agenda item. And Lene? Yeah, because is there only 4?
First up is Cameron Brown, followed by Christy McClure.
Hello. The superintendent of a school district has the responsibility to lead the community in times of uncertainty towards educational opportunities and govern the students, staff, and school district workers in a fair and transparent manner. Most jobs, it is required to have prior experience in a field relating to that job. While the newly elected superintendent has had experience as an appointed superintendent, not having worked in the public school system since 2015 is a reason for concern. I, an honor student, has been accepted to a state skiers in office and janitorial sales. The means of election leads me to be violated many times. Thank you.
I believe step 1, commence a planning meeting with the board and provide a summary of the meeting, which will you let us, the public, know just a basic timeline and steps, just to improve trust and transparency. Understand the board's perspective through individual interviews. Substack article on how a poorly constructed survey is. Although the report was created, did anyone see it? Was that released? I mean, I got a copy because I submitted an official request. They were going to prepare a leadership profile and desired characteristics based on data from the survey, interviews with district representatives, and other information. Does that mean cabinet officials were interviewed as well as the 5 of you? Did you 5 see a desired characteristics and leadership profile report? Is this the rubric you would have used as a team to compare candidates to, which is really standard in executive recruiting and search across all industries? Interviewing candidates. So HYA was supposed to interview candidates first, and you're telling me they interviewed candidates before you all did, sort of screening them out, but not Dr. Velez. Conduct reference checks. Did this even happen? Identify the best qualified candidates. The ones you saw yesterday, those are the best. Again, not Dr. Velez sitting right in front of me. Prepare application materials of selected slate of candidates for the board's consideration. So you all saw application materials, information prior to the interviews, maybe a CV, anything? No, or did you meet them blind? Facilitate discussions to narrow the candidate pool after each round of interviews. Round of interviews? Were there rounds of interviews, or was yesterday it? Was there a facilitated discussion? Was Micah able to do something that we have not seen up here for a year of a facilitated discussion amongst you five? Coordinate and provide investigative background checks for final candidates. So prior to the interview background check, so as to not waste your time. No offense to the candidates selected, but this process was a complete sham and hidden from your stakeholders. Without transparency and clear communication, it looks like you are lying and you're hiding things from us. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it must be a duck.
Upneat, followed by Greg.
Hello, everyone. I'm Upneet, and yesterday I asked you not to rush in hiring the superintendent. But once again, our voices were ignored. I have no confidence in the hiring firm, and I don't trust them to do a thorough background check. So I looked into Dr. Wood's background. I became curious about why the highest paid superintendent in the region suddenly resigned from public education. Can you guess how much the Beverly Hills School District had to pay in legal expenses during the year Dr. Woods resigned in 2015? It was a shocking 5.2 million, sorry. At one point, they had so many law firms that they had to hire a general counsel in 2014 just to keep track of all the billing items. Prop 39 was passed in California in 2012, and school districts issued bonds. In TVUSD, it was called Measure Y, and was for $165 million. While Beverly Hills Unified, it was called Measure E, and was $330 million. Due to good governance and management, TVUSD did not encounter any audit failures or legal disputes associated with Measure Y. As of the latest audit, there's still $78 million left from that measure, which is designated for school modernization projects. Under Dr. Wood's leadership, Beverly Hills failed audits due to lack of accountability. They had missing purchase orders, didn't follow the competitive bidding process, and misused bond funds meant for facilities improvement to pay legal bills, and exorbitant consultant fees. His budget planning skills were extremely poor, causing the school district to use up all their reserves and borrow $5 million from the county treasury to meet the obligations in November of 2014. Just to give you an idea, the legal bills at the time were a whopping $2.8 million. Under Dr. Wood's leadership, the school district was sued for racial discrimination. They settled for $685,000 with Principal Basinger. The lawsuit against LA Metro, which started when he was in charge, has recently finished appeal process, and the school district lost. They spent a total of $16 million on that lawsuit. Then he was in charge of American University Prep School, which has a total of 47 students. Do you know what happened to that? It failed during COVID, and the management was accused of mishandling funds, displaying poor leadership, and fostering toxic work environment. The decision to replace an award-winning superintendent who was fiscally responsible with someone who was financially irresponsible and incompetent shows extremely poor judgment on your part. This is what bad governance is. You're actively working against the district's best interests. I have put more care when I hire an individual contributor. This has been rushed through, and this is not the right process.
Greg, followed by Jean.
So, board, first, thank you. I think you're doing your job. You're elected to represent the parents of this district, to impress upon the minds of the students the principles of morality, truth, patriotism. You need a superintendent that's going to lead in that direction. It's your job to get the best person in position to carry out the vision of the school and that, of the district, and that really is your job. As to process, Steve, again, I appreciate your willingness always to speak your mind. That's part of the process. That's the liberty we have. That's one of the great things about this country, freedom of speech. But it's freedom of speech under law, of course, and that's Joseph's job is to keep the rules. But I think the board does that, you know. Allison, you always speak your mind. We always know where you stand, and it's good because the rest of the board has to make their arguments in light of your research, and you do your due diligence. So this is why I think the board really has done their job. Danny, you're very methodical. Appreciate that. Different personality than Jen and Joseph and Steve and Allison, but you all have your parts to play, and I can see a good outcome coming. And you let the audience, the community, speak their minds. They get up here, and sometimes it's angry. It's okay. You know, you hear their arguments as well. And so that freedom of speech under law, which Joseph has tried to do with Mr. Vickery, allows everyone the freedom to speak their minds. And then that's the way you come to consensus. Consensus is not always an easy process. It's not always a comfortable process, but it's our constitutional process. We're one nation under God. That's where we're united with liberty, freedom, and justice under law. And you guys are showing the community how our constitutional republic is meant to work. Freedom of speech under our Constitution. So I really do appreciate the work that you guys are doing, and I really do support the process by which you're coming to a decision on superintendent. Thank you very much.
Last up is Jean.
Good evening. I don't really know where to start. I've heard a lot of rumors today. I really don't know what's true and what's not. So here are the possibilities that I think might be happening. The first possibility is that you chose the candidate you wanted. Let's call him Dr. Woods number 1. If so, there's definitely a conflict of interest because he was an employee of Hazard, Young and Attea Associates, in which case they did not earn the money that they were given by our school district for doing this job. And secondly, as Upneet has so eloquently spoken, there are questions about this candidate's effectiveness in previous positions and the applicability of his experience. The other possibility is that you chose a candidate you didn't want, who just happened to have the same name as the one you did want. I have no idea if this is the case. Let's call him Dr. Woods number 2. If that's the case, it points out the error of rushing into getting this done without a proper process. And again, HYA did not do their due diligence in terms of this. And third, it raises questions about the experience of Dr. Woods number 2, who does not have a experience in public school teaching or administration. So I really feel like I've been watching you guys since December, and I know some people in the school district, and I hear about all this stuff. I don't have any inside knowledge, but it just really concerns me that you guys are so lacking in transparency to those of us who care in the community, to the parents and the teachers and the grandparents and just people like me who've lived here a long time and care about this school district. Please try to do a better job. Thank you.
Okay, we're now going into closed session. We'll just wait till the auditorium clears.